finally circling back to some Dislyte fashion weeks after covering the rare character outfits, which are honestly not even touching these epic ones. Very much looking forward to getting into these. Let's get started. And just to preface, I'm really using this video to gush. There's not going to be too much historical lore, character background oriented exploration or analysis, really getting into adoring, which is really more my top favorite outfits. Starting with Sander, and I mean, this is kind of barely a favorite, only because this isn't that much of a build upon the Anubis outfit, which he's like one of the main characters from the rare collection of characters. But I love an over-the-shoulder jacket moment, really loving the pronounced gold spikes. And overall purple, you already know how that's royal, that's really grand, authoritative, and there's just great texture overall, great layers, classic clean composition that you can't go wrong with for men's fashion. Don't know how I missed this one. Glad I caught it right before I started editing, but much prefer this outfit, especially in terms of giving us a flex and range in genre and aesthetic of fashion for the character. Like I said, I felt like the default was barely a build upon the Anubis style, but this one just is much more rugged, more utility, almost a little bit more bad boy, which is a nice contrast to the chic, sharp, sophisticated nature of this character's core style, but still staying within that same framework that is just working so well. Jacket over the shoulders, just with more texture, more detailed belt around the midsection, and then taller boots. It's just not usually the biggest fan of olive, especially when it's monochromatic like this, but it's really working here. Next we have Stuart, and I love his outfit and style. It's playful, especially for a men's kind of composition in terms of an outfit. God of fertility, wine, ecstasy, vegetation. So we need some of that kind of like flirtiness, some of that just attitude and punch to the style. And the China Sprite, which I'll touch on throughout this review, tends to be more conservative. In this case, I don't like that, even though it makes it nicely buttoned up and just more refined. We need that leg, especially for a short. I've already talked about this. I think that's just what really makes this style true to the god and just a little bit of that background. Love the ethereal nature of the hair. Don't necessarily like the green neon socks, even though it ties to the headband or hairband that he has, but overall love this composition. I've even said I like a little bit of like a blazer short situation, and that's exactly what we're getting here. Udai's outfit feels once again a little bit of that kind of Lolita-ish style, but what really makes it for me is just the constellation elements sprinkled within, ties to the background of like the goddess or the deity that this character is emulating. And there's a few characters that have a little bit of that kind of like astrological kind of constellation, ethereal galaxy oriented touch to their style. So we've seen a little bit of that kind of puffy, tubular, transparent material to these outfits, but this is just, again, an interesting kind of composition to it. Feels like rain outfit, kind of rain gear, just with a little bit of the shoulder, and then obviously the umbrella. You can tell I'm getting back into the groove because I'm like stumbling over my words on this stuff. What really punches me with regard to Xiao Yin's style is really the shrug. A shrug just really being more like a sleeve oriented top than anything else, because we're just getting so much body confidence as a result of that. But also love the strong belt work that we're getting as well, particularly the belt or the band around the midsection or the torso right under the chest. I love when there's just a way to kind of fill in that body confidence zone. Don't mind some full ab coming at us, but when we just get something a little bit more decorative, I like to play with belts in that capacity as well. So it's always nice to see it on a character, and just really differentiates the style and brings out of something that we could typically expect. But I love how in the dragon roar skin, we're not really breaking out of that framework too much. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But it's just really making that belt work more delicate. Something with a little bit more of like a beaded chain oriented style, as we can kind of see a few different belt elements around the waist, and then even just the cross kind of chain or gem or kind of beadwork across the chest. So building upon what was really interesting and striking in the original outfit, but just making it a nice variation in terms of something that's just more delicate and soft, which I feel like we can even see kind of mirrored with some of the more fantastical elements surrounding the character and just like the artwork. So Then we have the Death Guard characters, and I almost didn't include them just because I'm not particularly like blown away by the outfits. Not anything that I feel like feels especially traditional Chinese clothing, which there's nothing wrong with that. But since there's two of them, for the sake of comparison, I think it's interesting to discuss, starting with Chu Yi's, who I feel like kind of reminds me of Hu Tao's outfit from Genshin Impact. More so the shorter shorts with the kind of taller socks and style of shoe. And then it's interesting to see how Yu Xi's kind of overall artwork looks kind of like a Disney Mickey Mouse classic black and white cartoon. So that's an interesting contrast, but really what's worth noting are their alternate outfits, which definitely feel much more modern contemporary twist to the traditional style, which I always say how much I appreciate that. And what particularly stands out to me are the pants. I just really love the exaggerated flare that we're getting with them, particularly in Yu Xi's. It just feels really flowy, high movement, a little bit of drama, and even just the outfit composition with like a little bit more of like a crop jacket and those wider pants, a good contrast between those two kind of frameworks and silhouettes for the garments, but that's about it. Then we have Yu, and I love this skirt in particular. Obviously the nails or the talons, because I believe that this deity is inspired by a bit of a bird, yes. And so I just really love those kind of sharp, tough elements to the style, which are a good kind of complement to some more of the delicate elements like the taller socks and even the style of the jacket, which feels almost a little kind of like kimono-ish, but I mean, in a nice kind of almost rugged biker jacket style. So just really nice builds on this overall look, color palette cohesive, little small accessories, and I really love this type of shoe, which also feels traditional cultural, but just somehow feels a little bit more modern in concert with everything else. Then we have Xiongnan, and I really like the bucket hat. I mean, I don't feel like we've seen too many bucket hats, but that's just, I feel like such a modern accessory, and especially just when it comes to like hip hop street style, I really appreciate how that is incorporated and plays very nicely with everything else. Love a bold, grand red jacket, of course. Love a knee-high boot, especially on a male character. So we're just getting some elements that definitely break out what could have been a very typical, somewhat stereotypical like framework for a men's outfit into something that's just different. I was trying to think of who Meredith reminded me of, and I decided that Janis Joplin is like the closest proxy that I could think of. Not necessarily one-to-one, but I'm just getting a little bit of that kind of like hippie style. Really, it's the head wrap, but the overall laid back aesthetic that this outfit is giving. But it also definitely feels a little bit like current streetwear trended style. I like how there's a little bit of like a high-waisted nature of it. Almost feels a little jumpsuit-ish, but not completely. So it's just simple. It could be Rare-esque, maybe not full epic level, but it does just enough to give us something a little bit fresh and interesting. So I almost didn't include Mona just because as much as I appreciate a cool, laid back, once again, trendy urban style like this outfit, the beanie, the socks, the sneakers, the jacket, it just felt a little bit kind of like Rare-esque. Like I've already gushed over the strong Rare outfits, I mean, for what they are given the tier. I'm looking for a little bit more from these epic skins, but it's really the moon goddess alternate outfit that is absolutely giving it to me. It's giving more of that kind of natural woodland nature of the Artemis kind of entity that this character is embodying. Just really loving more of that kind of green color. Overall just feels so much more ethereal and just so much more fantastical and magical, which is kind of what I want. It's a little bit softer, maybe not as street style, but I'm fine with that. Like we get plenty of it, and still even like the boots are cute and feel a little bit modern. So really loving more of this as like a default style for this character. So Nick, I almost also didn't include, like there's quite a few of them that I just was kind of like, okay with, but what I appreciate most is how there's that big rock structural component to the character's side. I just feel like there's elements that continue that rock-like element in an organic fashion way. more so the cuffed or rolled up nature of some of the garments, the pants, the sleeves of the jacket or whatever that's like off of his body or wrapped around his waist, and just obviously a bulkier shoe. Admittedly, Nicole's outfit is pretty simple, sleek, but I mean, when it's sassy and a little bit sexy too, that's when I'm just like, it's a bias that I think I have, and it's like an immediate win. And this character is, I think, embodying a little bit of that goddess energy that is like of wind and like night or evening. And sometimes you don't need to go over the top to embody that. Like, it's just seen in the color palette, seen in the kind of sheer, more mysterious elements to the outfit. And the hair is doing a lot of work here just to give this a little bit more shape and movement and texture, even for that matter, just and flow to really bring in that wind component. What you see is what you get with Odette. I did not mean to rhyme that, but that was absolutely perfect. I mean, a goddess of like the mountains, skiing, like that kind of snow work. But what I really like here is I feel like when we get a winter style outfit, especially just with like a puffier parka style jacket and something that's a little snowboardish, it's always like white or a brighter, fresh color palette. I feel like the black mixed in just gives it so much more edge and obviously heightens the contrast with that black and the white. Loving the goggles, loving the accessories. It's a pretty straightforward, like winterish outfit that we've probably seen plenty of times before, but I feel like that's what makes it so fashion. Army is absolutely stunning, like wow. And I really appreciate how they make some of these more like cow or like livestock inspired gods and goddesses, not so like typical on the nose country-ish or too rugged, so chic, high fashion, luxurious. Loving how, and I love what they do in Dislyte with just the transparent, kind of translucent fabrics and materials, and how it's usually almost some sort of headwear, then some sort of garment or like cloth like accessory or wrap in the actual body of the outfit. So like what we're getting here with the cardigan, and then just a little bit of what I want to say is a bonnet, but like I don't even really know how to describe this hat. But, and then just the luminescent horn details. I love a luminescent detail. So, and then the texture, like there's just so much to appreciate here. Good body confidence with the titties given, like peeking through, but there's just so much coverage throughout the rest of it. It still feels so classy and well put together. Loving the layers and just loving the length and the movement and the dimension. So Preets, I love a mystical, sage, wise, older gentleman character, but especially when he's just given that elite oriented composition and style and treatment and aesthetic. Loving the texture, the bold, grand, like silhouette and shape of this jacket. And I like how the pants feel a little bit more slouchy, but it doesn't take away from how buttoned up and sophisticated this overall look is. Love the belt work as always. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's a pretty standard composition, but it definitely just feels fresh, mystical, nonetheless. Like it just really accomplishes the objective. But I think I'm so obsessed with this enlightened seeker look. It's honestly a good contrast to that default style, something that feels so much more rugged, something even a little bit what am I trying to think, like eccentric. I don't want to always say bohemian, but like just, what is that word? It's eluding me, but it's just something that's just a little bit more thrifty and genuine personal style. And just with the jacket, what's really getting me though are the boots. They're like heeled boots come through, but still feels plenty masculine with like the strong gold chain and like belt buckle details. Loving the fedora style hat. Like all of it just feels like items that this wise older gentleman found throughout the extent of his lifetime, and he knows his personal style. He knows how to bring all these different things together to make a strong, bold, unique statement outfit. And it's Haley's outfit, borderline rare, borderline like just simple, but she's the personification of the Nile River. And so I think knowing that, and just with the strong attention put on the sleeves, which is giving that kind of flowy, watery-esque, not only like transparent, see-through nature, but also just that movement. And also the bold gold like arm cuffs. That's just so striking. I think it almost requires the rest of the outfit to be a bit tamed down in order for that to be so pronounced and to kind of be the statement. I was almost gonna skip Koharu's outfit. I mean, I feel like we've seen this before, and it is very cultural traditional. Feels very Lolita, which again, there's nothing wrong with that, but I just feel like I've seen it so many times in these types of games. But it does add a nice kind of breakaway, and it actually helps me appreciate it more. And just seeing all of the more kind of modern, contemporary, urban styles across the rest of the characters, it is kind of refreshing to see just a character that's embodying that culture and that style to its fullest. So, I mean, if it works, it works. Skipped over this one in my MacBook tabs, but anyway, definitely had to cover it, as we can obviously see the great gold majesty going on within this outfit. Lots of juxtaposition, a more muscular, tough, feminine build with just a more graceful, feminine, beautiful outfit composition, and even the materials and elements within the outfit are a bit of a contrast. Like we have some studded, rugged, tough elements just with that graceful, divine nature and draping of the fabric, and just all of that going on. We can see it, it's evident, but it makes for a very interesting, striking, bold outfit, which is exactly what I'm looking for. Long Mian, I feel like, is a simple slay. Can't go wrong with a simple, practically all black outfit. The China sprite looked like there was a longer statement jacket, which I almost feel like could have been nice in this case, just to kind of give it a little bit more presence, just a little bit, again, more of that silhouette, shape, even movement and drama. But I really do like the just a shirt in this case, also very cultural traditional, but just with the belted element over top, it's just what gives it a little bit more style. I mean, and it's just like a good asymmetry, can't go wrong with it. Like a great go-to for a men's outfit. But the red phosphorus, like, let's talk about this. I just, once again, we're getting asymmetry, but that statement striking red ruffled element in the middle, which then looks like it kind of cascades and wraps around just for a little bit more of a skirted detail on one side, just really contributes to some outstanding contrast. And even the lining of it has some different coloring a little bit on the gold side. So a really nice build upon that default. Almost kind of wish the default did look like this, and then we could have gotten some sort of interesting variation to this one, but at least we can appreciate this one based on the default. Uyi, I was tempted to kind of be like, I mean, it looks good. Like all of these pretty much look good, okay? But it was just a little kind of like a safe slay. What really gets me though is just the off the shoulder jacket, and it's belted, and it has to be belted in this case, I feel like, to secure the jacket off the shoulder element the way it is. Like, I've done this before, and I just really love when fashion plays in this regard. Just feels so effortlessly stylish, effortlessly, like, just, I don't have to try very hard. I'm experimental, but I look great doing it. And then the rest of the elements are nice. Like, even just the kind of shorts are a little bit more polished and sophisticated. So we're just getting a few different aesthetics in here that really work well together. And I love when that's the case. Distressed stockings, it's really working. But then the Wild Ranger feels a little safe, so stylish, so fashionable, but safe and not as experimental and effortless as I feel like the default. But the color palette, it just feels a little bit more like natural and just on like earthy. And I like the belt work, so I mean, it's okay. Like, let me get a closer look at it. Yeah, I mean, it's cool. Luo Yan's outfit is just so divine. Just so, like, he is that dude. And I love the gold elements, that they're not too sprinkled throughout the entire outfit. We're getting just enough, and it's focused in the right areas, typically around the neckline, the belts, and then the shoulders. And the China version just went to more of like an all black. We need the red in here as the pop, especially to go with the boots. And I love that the boots are more of like a glossy patent leather. That they have to be patent leather. And I just love that kind of shine and sheen. God of, like, again, underworld and judgment. And I feel like we're getting that with like how the cloth goes into like these scroll-like elements to give like maybe a verdict. Lin, I was tempted to kind of be like, it's so slay, but I was just kind of Like, the horned elements are so pronounced in this version, but like I was saying with, forget her name already, the other character that was inspired by like a cow deity, I feel like it's done in a way that doesn't feel so country, so rugged. Once again, this one's almost like futuristic, loving the metallic details. But what I really wanted to call out was, I hate a tabby boot. I don't think I've said this before, but I think tabby boots are so ugly, and I don't know that I'll ever wear a pair of them. But if you're gonna do like this hoof shoe situation, I like that it's more so focused in the platform and not the toes of the shoe. Ira's look, Freya, just so, and I feel like being based off of Freya, we get a little bit more of that assertive, kind of strong female energy. And I use those words because we're getting more of like a panted look. I just really feel like the still graceful, angelic almost nature of a little bit of the kind of tail or cape or combination situation she's got going on here is such a great juxtaposition and contrast to more of a panted style outfit. I just really love that, with a little bit of the kind of slit in the cuff of them. The color, I love a pink and blue situation. Like, this is just absolutely crushing it. But then when we get to the fever one, wow, like we're going almost a little alternative, and just with a little bit more of like a booted shoe, fishnet stockings, plenty of belt and buckle action. But I mean, just the roses scattered throughout, and how it's like mirrored shoulder to hip on the skirt. I just absolutely wow. And I love the range that this provides the character, going more soft to something that's still as soft. We're still within that realm of aesthetic, but just the color palette just feels so much more edgy, bold, and assertive. And so just really love that flex and range and spectrum that this character can embody. When I saw Fabrice, I was just like, those colors are absolutely gorgeous and stunning against that rich chocolate skin tone. Deep chocolate, deep brown. I'm like, that alone is like what's making this outfit absolutely glorious. And then when you get into the details, they're great. Actually, I didn't even notice it. It almost looks like a little bit of like not holster, like a little bit of holster, a little bit of like harness suspender-ish belt style going on. I mean, there's really not over-the-top accessories. It's overall just such a delicate look in the accessories and decorations, and also in the color palette. Falcon or Horus's style, absolutely perfect. Especially when it's just based on more of like a falcon-oriented deity. It's perfect. It's not over the top. I don't feel like we're getting really any exaggerated like bird-like elements, except for a little bit of a nod in the hair. Obviously the mask, I feel like, covers a little bit of the face, maybe to emulate a beak, but it doesn't have to be like a mask and like a beak mask. And then I noticed it without remembering like who Horus was. Just the tails of the jacket, how they're layered, obviously give feathers, but not like, it doesn't have to be a feather material or texture. We still get the concept just based on the shape of them. So I just love the cut. Chang'e just looks so absolutely comfortable. Just comfortable, cozy, but still chic and cool as I don't know what, especially with the sunglasses, but just the layers of it. And we still get a little peek in there, a little bit, some thigh coming through. So I just really love the overall bulkier, well-rounded silhouette and coverage that we're getting. But then it's contrasting and balancing the more kind of sleek, sassy, like stockings, shoe, thigh situation going on here. Cultural, traditional, but it's really the jacket giving us that modern contemporary twist with the sunglasses. And this is actually I didn't even peek the alternate outfit, but this is going full-blown unapologetic, cultural, traditional, full fantasy. And that's if we're getting a little bit of that modern contemporary in the default, or it's somewhere in the character's wardrobe or collection, I'm cool going all out, true to the roots. And I mean, you already know these magical, beautiful, gorgeous, ethereal styles that we're getting with regard to ancient Chinese culture. So I just love it. I mean, it's really speaking for itself. This is, after taking another look at Jacob's outfit, it's kind of giving me like King of Spades, Prince of Spades from like an Alice in Wonderland or some sort of like card suit theme. Now that I take a look at it, just with the overall muted monochromatic style, and some of the shapes could be argued to be like a spade or a diamond, which I feel like those suits are often depicted in like a white and black style, but in this case with gray. Structure we've seen, but just enough kind of decorative elements around the cuffs, the lapels, and a little bit of like the shirt underneath, just to break us out of something that could be really flat and plain, and giving us enough of some personality. Jiangman, really, I mean, this feels like a typical, what is it, Qipao? What is that? Like the typical oriented dress. I'll have to just remember, I'll put the name of the dress if I didn't say the right one. But I mean, it is a little bit like we've seen this before, so I'm not really blown away by this. Goddess of like forgetfulness, or like this brew, like this herbal brew, which is why we get a large flower and a little bit of that liquid coming through. The China version, I have to call out the difference here, just because I feel like the China version, while trying to be conservative, it sometimes just like mutes the pop of elements that we need. Like in this case, we need that silver. We need that silver to really make this outfit pop. Otherwise, it feels very simple, plain, and borderline boring. So I just really wanted to highlight this outfit for that purpose. And then there's a human outfit, which is cute. Once again, doesn't feel like it's really bringing us into anything new or even really modern contemporary twist. So I'm just kind of like, but it's the faded reverie. Now we're starting to get playful. Now we're starting to get imaginative. Now we're starting to get epic. And I feel like this absolutely does it. This should have been more of the default, just maybe in that red tone, because we're still getting the core elements, but they just all pop against each other so much more. We're even getting, I feel like, some luminescence. I feel like the plants can embody some of that luminescence, and just more decoration. And just like between the stockings and just the shape of the dress, still the same type of dress, but it just is cut differently. So I mean, definitely we loving this more so for her. Catherine, Hela, it is so interesting seeing a different iteration or visualization of Hela, especially when we just think about Marvel Rivals' dominance and just how she's appeared there in all of her different forms. They're crushing it with her in that franchise. But I love a little bit more of a kind of like classic gown oriented style, something that's just much more soft, and something that is but just as dark and just as underworld. So I feel like this is capturing it. Once again, I want to call out the comparison to the China Sprite. The China Sprite did it better in this case. I don't think I like whatever design is going on in the chest, to be honest. And those kind of red elements behind her just have more decoration, like thorny, more menacing, more severe, more critical in the China Sprite. And I just like the top better. Like it just looks cleaner and almost a little more sheer. So I mean, interesting how they kind of go in that direction. But Celine, who was embodying a siren, really interesting twist on what could be a mermaid oriented stereotypical kind of association. And I think we get a little bit of that like fin movement, flowy element in the scarf that she's wearing, and just how those exaggerated kind of end components of it, almost giving me a little bit of that kind of 1920s flapper style a little bit. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing really modern contemporary here. This just screams 1920 style, but it's in a little bit of Art Deco, but it's clean, sleek. But let's get into Chloe here, because this outfit is, her style in general is everything. I cannot wait to get to her alternate, but love all of the extra fabrics, all that extra flair, like decoration, all that stuff coming off. The base just gives a little bit more of that kind of rugged, alternative, tough girl, borderline style. Loving the body confidence, love a strong crop, and just some sheer elements too, but plenty of belt and buckle and banded details, which we love on this channel. You already know about that, but it's just the extra elements coming off that give it a little bit more of that femininity, that softness, and plenty of movement and shape. But let's talk about this heartthrob. When I saw this, I was like, this is what I love to see in female style, to be honest. Like, I love an unapologetically girly style like this that just really goes in a much more playful, fun direction without being too like campy, whimsical. This just feels so absolutely like couture. Just so strong. The boot, the stocking shoes still almost give a little alternative, just with like the bows kind of emulating what would otherwise be like maybe some belt and buckles on some platform boots. But look at those, like that cascading ruffle waterfall going off of one shoulder, and just then some flower detail to surround that and just give it even more texture. The different textural elements here between the lace, those bows, the ruffles, the flowers, like there's just so much going on here. Could be considered busy, but it just works together. It's all aligning to a general concept and theme of texture, and just loving the pink. So Daniel is a centaur character, and I prefer to just cover more human-oriented forms and such, which is why I'm going to the China Sprite. Once again, I don't feel like we're getting anything too mind-blowing in the centaur form that we aren't getting within the human form. And I feel like the human form, if anything, gives us a little bit more and is more genuine, true fashion. We're just getting more fashion, more clothing. Loving the pants. And I feel like they speak to almost a little bit of a Western style without being too Western, because I feel like the jacket just with what feels like a leathery texture and just a brown color paired with what feels like some fringe like elements in the pants and just like the flared nature of the pants in general. Like I just love that. And I feel like the white shirt still kind of buttoned up turtleneck still gives that sophistication, still gives like a knowledgeable like figure that we can still take seriously and is like out here teaching people, but the rest of it just gives much more like interesting style. Like I could see this in a designer store ready to buy. It's absolutely perfect. Daylon, I mean, once again, don't always try to go for more of these like monster forms entirely, but I mean, the outfit's rocking it. It is pure, unadulterated alt everything that I love. And I'm going to call it the China Sprite once again, just because it gives much more like necklace chain stack, which I love a good silver chain stack. And we're just getting all the belt and buckle details, studs, like we're getting, it's unapologetically true to alt fashion with all of those elements. Crop jacket, like you already know. Dhalia or Calypso, it's giving rare. It's giving a little bit more of that simple, very cool, rare style. But it's really just that hooded jacket cape situation. I just love it. Like it just looks like such a very strong default outfit. Like this is giving main character without having to really try too hard. And I could just almost see this. I will almost want to see this on another character that I love. Like I just love the outfit. I just love the outfit. DJ's outfit, once again, I just am not always about these bullish horned characters, but they have them looking so fresh in this game. I love a deep V open unbuttoned shirt like this in general. Like just the framework of the outfit is absolutely spot on, and I love how the shoes in this case are like a white that just really pops against more of the muted darker color palette and the rest of it, with just enough sprinkles of gold hardware to not make this feel completely flat, especially paired with that amazing chain necklace that he has going on. And it's like suspender-ish detail. You know how I feel about the suspenders. So it's just a clean, super sharp, but it feels a little bit more casual, effortlessly cool guy style. So Adrina is interesting. Red Hot Chili Pepper is the name of the game for this character. Was turned into an animal because she violated like a ritual fast. And I just really love the chili pepper kind of concept here, because we get that obviously in her crop, so love some body confidence, but then even the shoes feel like chili pepper-esque. And it just feels like such a strong statement element that feels almost like mismatchy to some of the greenish kind of plaid. And then we get like even some different kind of fabric around the waist, but I love the playfulness around the waist. Love like a skirt over jean moment. Like it's just, again, alternative, but a different genre of it. More thrifty, more edited to fit her style, and plenty of bite and fire and personality. So so cool. Let's get into Alexa, Miss Aphrodite herself. Absolutely. Like this is structural, architectural, high couture, like haute couture to the max situation. Like this is putting on a show. I just love the skirt. and that cage skirt situation feels very classic European, but then brought into a new, just with the reinvention and reimagination of the structure of it and just all of the different heart motifs. But I gotta say that I almost wonder if I don't like the China version a little bit more. Love some titties out, but then it's just like titties and panties. Like, it's just a lot. I would have loved maybe more of a softer, more sophisticated kind of chic, like gown-like style for an Aphrodite, to be honest. But I don't mind this more kind of like sultry, seductive, darker twist and imagining of the character. But I will say that I like the titties out in the formal wear. Like, this is where we're getting something a little bit more sophisticated. I know the office siren thing has like not as hot and trendy as it used to be, but it's definitely still giving that energy. And I like a little bit more of like the peplum. Isn't it the peplum, like with like the wavy, more kind of like out waistline? I feel like a peplum top or jacket. So I think that's just really cute because we get a little bit of underlining of it. It's just chic and sharp. Like, I just like this darker edge to the Aphrodite style. Oh my gosh, when I saw Alice, I was like, wow, blown away. Like, eleganza, like, what is going on here? I even said how I like in Dislyte how they play with that like translucent sheer hat wear, and how that kind of doesn't really mirror anything else in the rest of the outfit. But I love a witch wizard hat in general. Like, it's just perfect. I'm obsessed with that element, like, alone. But then when you get into like the robe, which is pretty much like a gown, it's off the shoulder, so it's effortless. I don't even have to try to look this expensive, but I'm just dripping in luxury. The color palette, the ethereal nature, the charms. And I like how what was typically like fur around a robe or a coat like this is almost just like magical stuff. Like, it's just absolutely incredible. Zuzu, Alolin, Pazuzu. I mean, like, love a cropped vest situation. Like, oh, it's just like the dimension here is just so great. Like the jacket. We've been getting spoiled in this epic collection with the off the shoulder, effortless, like, I just got it like that style. But loving the subtle studs that doesn't feel too over the top alternative, but we're still getting plenty of zipper action, like in the cuffs of the jacket and just the jacket overall. Really just love the snatchness, and I would dare say it's a high-waisted pant, so it's just like, I want the whole thing. Then we get Pandora, and I'm gonna call out the comparison between the China Sprite and the global view once again, just because I like in the China Sprite, and it's interesting that they gave more leg and the shorter skirt, so it's kind of contrary to some of the more conservative nature that they typically have with their alternate, like their edits to the style. But I like the default because I just feel like we have much more going on. I feel like the fishnets with the extra bands and how that kind of like contrasts some of the different like placement of the hardware in the dress just gives a little bit more composed chaos. And Pandora's box is all about like chaos, unleashing all this madness and this like vengeance and wildness. And I feel like just the more we can get in an outfit like hers, the more it can really convey that concept and style. So I just really love it more with the fishnets, even though I do wish that the skirt was shorter in that case, but it is what it is. But then the Wiccan's Eve, I feel like really much more like embodies something dark and sinister. Almost kind of reminds me of Elphaba from Wicked, like literally. So I just kind of almost feel like just change the skin color to green and like you're in the Wicked universe. So just that alone, I feel like should really highlight, even though she wasn't as bad as maybe we thought. Anyway, I just feel like that alone should really kind of help us understand what's going on here. But I love like the cinched belted corset, almost like waist. It is like a kind of jacket, but then the sleeves are translucent. Like, it's just different textures. Feels almost very like corporate, but like playful, witchy corporate. So I just, yeah. Then we have Hermes, and I really do like the play here. Like, we're getting these exaggerated elements from the hat, which I feel like conveys some of those wings, which are then mirrored and echoed in the shoes. And I like how also then the cape kind of mirrors the shoes as well, just with the color of it, and then the gold hardware. So we're just getting really like strong coordination top to bottom, and helps us take in the full scope of the outfit. And I do like that the lining of the cape has some red, which then we see that in the pants, and we see a little bit of sprinkle of maybe more of like a salmon or an orangey in the, or like a scarlet in the vest, which then kind of brings all that together. So there's interesting contrast, but great synergy between all the different colors going on. Love the chains. Aurelius is such a great example of that rugged wilderness style, but just feels clean. Like it feels sharp and clean. There's really nothing else to say about it. Like there's this key elements to a rugged wilderness style that we would expect. That kind of fur-like texture going on around the lapels and the shoulders, big rugged boots, the overall greenish, like mossy green, forest green, a little bit of brownish color. But just the composition of it is just so clean. Like clean, put together. There's even a little bit of a cropped element to it, and the glasses just give it that kind of modern cool guy edge. Like you don't have to do too much. But let's talk about Nef. And I mean, kind of saved her for last, although she's kind of towards the end of the list based on how I opened up the tabs anyway. But anyway, I mean, gorgeous. One of the striking characters that I remember from seeing like previews and stuff, like obviously love the dark skin tone, and I feel like that just is what helps some of that softer purple color really pop, inspired by a bit of a lotus flower, which we see. And I even said how I like the kind of sheer elements that are often in the headwear, and then how we see that mirrored in somewhere of the body of the outfit, which we see around her legs or like her stockings. And love just enough peek of the thigh, some great peeks of the titty, but I just don't feel like that's the focal point. I feel like we're getting enough of that wavy movement, magical feminine fabric going on around her, and that then that's the hierarchy. I see flowing ruffled fabrics, gold texture, beautiful colors, and then some peaks of the skin. That's the kind of hierarchy I think that we should get, especially when we have a little bit of body confidence coming through. All right, that was finally me getting to the coverage of the epic characters from Dislyte. Now we have the legendary Espers, and I might have to break that into two lists because there's so many of them. But if this was any indication of what Dislyte has to offer in terms of fashion and style, you know it's about to get better. So hope you enjoyed. Let me know which ones were some of your favorite outfits, and until the next video, I'll talk to you later.